All right, so we're going to talk about multiplying right now. Multiplying integers, positive and negative, it's kind of like adding and subtracting, where it's a lot of the things that you already know, and it's just, it's not going to be too hard, but we're going to do a lot of practice with this. Okay, so you have 2 times 3. So basically what multiplication means is you have 2 groups, and in the groups, there are 3 things, right? And so 2 times 3 is 6. Right? Okay, and so if you look at this next one, it's the same thing except all of these are red. So you have 2 groups of a negative 3. Okay, so you have 2 groups of a negative 3, and you end up with a negative 6 if you count them. Okay, and now you have a negative group of 3 and a negative group of a positive 3. So when you times that by a negative, some people, I think it makes sense. What it's saying is these are going to be negative groups. Okay, if you want to reorder it, you could also say that this is 3 groups of 2. Okay, and so those are filled in, so they're negative. So my answer is a negative 6. Okay, the last one is the hardest one to see. So you're having negative groups of 2 groups of a negative 3. So all of those negatives are going to turn into positives because you're changing the sign. So you end up with a positive 6. Okay, so you're going to multiply just like you've multiplied your whole life. And so 2 positive integers, the answer is going to be positive. Okay, 2 negative integers, so if you look at this one right here, the answer is also going to be positive. Okay, the product of 2 integers with different signs, so that's this one and this one. If you look at those, the product of integers with 2 different signs is going to be negative. So if the signs are the same, you're going to make it positive. If the signs are different, it's going to be negative. So if you look at the first one, the signs are the same, my answer is positive. Number 2, the signs are different, the answer is negative. Number 3, the signs are different, the answer is negative. I would like you to pause the video and do 4, 5, and 6. Again, you're just telling me what the signs are going to be. Signs are the same, it's positive. Signs are the same, it's positive. Signs are different, it's negative. Okay, so the 0 property. So please remember this. The product of any number and 0 is 0. So even if it's a negative, -5 times 0 is 0. So if I find the product, 5 times 3 is 15, right? If I find the product, it's 20, but the signs are different, so it's going to be a negative 20. 4 times 8 is 32, so it's going to be a negative 32. 3 times 2 is 6. Those are negatives, so negative and a negative make a positive when you're multiplying, not when you're adding, when you're multiplying. So the next one is going to be a negative 63. So I would like you to do 12, 13, 14, and 15. So anything times 0 is 0. 8 times 6 is 48, but it's going to be a negative. A negative and a negative makes a positive. 0 times a negative 7 is 0. Okay, now I didn't have you do 16 because that's 3 numbers. So what you're going to do is you can multiply 2 at the same time. So that's a negative 18 times a negative 3. So first you're going to multiply the first 2 together. And now you're going to multiply those together. So 18 times 3, you have your little table, but it's 54. And since they're both negative, it's going to be a positive 54. So same thing on the next one. You multiply the first 2 together, and that is a positive 48 times a negative 7. I don't know what 48 times 7 is, so I'm going to do 48 times 7, and my answer is 336, but my signs are different, so it's going to be a negative. Okay, now when you square negative numbers, this is something I was kind of talking about actually in my algebra notes today. So when you square it, you're saying a -7 times a -7. Okay, it's in the parentheses, so you're squaring everything in the parentheses. So your answer on this is a positive 49. So on this one, you're saying a -4 times a -4 times a -4. So you cannot multiply more than 2 at a time. So you multiply those first. That's a positive 16 times a -4. And so your answer is going to be a -64. Okay? Now, these are different. If you notice, there is no parentheses. So that negative sign is out in front, and you're squaring the 9 first. Okay, the negative is not inside the parentheses. So this answer is a -81. It's very confusing to kids. Okay, same on the next one. The negative sign is out in front. So you're doing 2 times 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. And then you're taking the negative of it. Okay. All right, so now there's ways of doing these with application questions. Eric owns a share of a certain stock. If he sells 8 shares each month for a year, find the change in the number of shares of stock he owns. Okay, he's selling 8 shares, okay, a month. So he's losing them if he's selling them. So he's losing 8 shares every month. So if I multiply that together, he is losing 96 shares. Okay, so he sells that many. He's losing 96 shares. A ride at an amusement park descends. So that means it's going down 24 feet every second. If the ride lasts for 7 seconds, find the total change in elevation. So he's going for 7 seconds. My answer is a -168 feet. Okay. The temperature of a pot of water rose 3. So it's going up 3 each minute from 6:45 to 7:12. So I'm taking out my cut, 15 plus 12. So that's going to be 27 minutes. So I'm going to do 3 times 27 minutes. So it raised 81 degrees. Okay. So this is multiplication. If the signs are the same, it's positive. If the signs are different, the answer is negative.